Hello, friends. Welcome to episode 98 of Storyteller Conclave. This is a show all about helping you run the best tabletop role-playing game that you can, whether you're a new storyteller or dungeon master learning the craft, or an experienced storyteller looking to take your game to the next level. I'm Sarah.
I'm Rob.
How we doing, Rob?
I think you said it best in the live chat. It's kind of a weird day of just down.
Yeah, you had a massive headache all
did.
day today.
I did.
I'm having a depression day. Didn't sleep last night. It's just we're just batting 1,000 today. So, but it is our Wednesday therapy session.
It is.
It is here to share time with our friends, talk about our favorite hobbies, and we got a lot of questions from our Discord.
Wonderful questions with that.
Really, really great questions. So thank you guys all in advance for that. Obviously, we're gonna get to that later, like we always do. But just really overjoyed to see the engagement this week. It was
very
really,
much
really
so.
great.
Very much so.
But so this week we are talking a little bit about kind of flipping the script to your typical narrative flow.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of different ways to have your traditional story. You know, players searching for something. Trying to take down an obvious big bad guy. You know, the kind of things that are out there. But a lot of things that aren't talked about is the feeling hunted without it being a survival horror. You know?
Right. I mean, in survival horror, that's kind of the default. But like,
Yeah.
well, what if you're like just in a typical adventuring D&D game? I mean, your typical narrative flow is what we'll call like a proactive flow.
Yeah.
You know, where you're going to start every session by saying, "Okay, adventurers, what do you want to do?" And it's like the world is their oyster. They can choose to go wherever. They're the ones making the choices. They're the ones driving the narrative and stuff like that. But like, what if you end up in one of those situations where like you have royally ticked the bad guy off and now he's trying to hunt you down, or you've stolen an artifact from, I mean, whether it's the big bad evil guy or not, or just even the people you stole it from, you know.
Where do you really begin those? And a lot of times when you look at adventures like that, you look at your normal flow because it gives your players a lot of space. They have agency to do what they want.
Yeah.
It helps you step away from railroading because you're not writing the story. You're able to just let them kind of progress through the plot. It lets them tell a story that they want to tell and give you pieces as they go. Plot twists become kind of unexpected outcomes. But it is less reactive and more proactive. Right.
And usually your plot twist is because your players have proactively done something.
Right.
And then you get a twist out of it. And you typically return to like a sense of normal. You know, you've got, even though you might go out and have adventures, weird stuff will happen. You always kind of come back to this like, okay, we're going to set up camp for the night. We're going to get our long rest or whatever. You know, I mean, I'm using very Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition words for it, but you know, you kind of understand the point of like, okay, we're gonna, you know, we're done. We get to rest on our own terms. Everybody's kind of relaxed. The plot is resolved, at least resolved enough for right this moment.
Right.
And we can start fresh again the next session. So, like, how do you flip that the opposite direction and without turning it into like one huge running chase scene? Or, you know, overwhelming your... Because, like, my big worry about something like this is overwhelming my players with anxiety.
Yeah, and I think that's the key when you're talking about anything related to a chase mechanic or a hunted mechanic. Your first thought is anxiety, is that it's creating tension. But I don't necessarily feel that it has to be as tension-driven. And a good story is going to have tension at its points where it needs it. A lot of times these stories start from a place of comfort, especially when you're only getting it from their perspective. Yeah. For instance, if you're only seeing Pirates of the Caribbean from Will Turner's perspective, he's just a dude who worked at as a blacksmith. And he's got a girl that he's interested in, but she's way out of his league.
Oh, yeah.
He has no idea what's about to happen in his hometown until his girlfriend gets stolen from him. His almost girlfriend gets stolen from him.
Some weird-ass pirate shows up, then more pirates show up, and then he loses his girlfriend. Yeah.
Right, but he now knows how to get his girlfriend back. And so in that, it's a chase that starts differently. And that's the whole thing is that not all chases are equal. Not all chases are the A-team, where they're literally chased constantly, or, where you've got a cartel that's coming after you because you wronged them right at the beginning. That's not a bad way to start. It's, and media res is a great way to open things. It's like, there's nothing quite like being on a ship and having people firing on you as your opening scene.
Right.
But your players have to very quickly figure out what the heck's going on, and maybe they don't know. Maybe they're just waking up to the fact that they're on a ship and somebody on that ship is being taken for some reason, or trying to be overtaken. And at that point, now you get to move through it. But you don't have to start at a point of disconcerting anxiety. You can start at a point of calm, in fact, where they don't know what's going on, and then move into that. I actually prefer starting from a place of comfort in a lot of those stories. That's when I look at things like that, I look at people who have not realized what they've put themselves into until it's too late. And those kinds of stories, like Willow is a good example of that. Like, it's a baby. What's wrong with a baby? A baby's fine. Wolves just attacked your town. What do you mean wolves? Wolves larger than the largest person in your town tried to kill everyone in your town looking for baby baskets.
That sock baby's a sock baby, Jesus. Sock saver to the sock people. No.
Indeed, Burger. Indeed. Yes. So it's those kind of stories where the MacGuffin is wrapped in something that always kind of intrigues me. But, like, it doesn't put you in immediately off-putting state. It's kind of nice to start that way. And it doesn't mean the first adventure, even your session 0, you don't even have to let them know that it's going to be that way.
Exactly. In fact, that would be a fun one. Like, I know I like to say keep your milk run completely unconnected to plot. But if you're going to roll into this trope, that's going to be a fun one to do. Indeed. Hey, here's your milk run. Go to the dungeon. Grab this harmless little thing. It's like a little crystal.
Yeah.
Just bring it back. You're going to fight some goblins.
Yeah.
It's a great level 2 adventure.
Yep.
All right, cool. We go in. We find and remove traps. We kill some goblins. Oh, a goblin chieftain, guys.
Yep.
That's extra XP for us.
Yep.
We come home. We got 50 gold in our pocket. Yep. This is effing awesome.
That's right. Go buy some stuff.
And then you find out that crystal...
Well, like, you find out later when you go back to the guy that you got the original quest from, like, hey,
he's been murdered.
Yeah, and you're like, oh. And his daughter's trying to find his murderer.
Right.
And come to find out, like, you're not supposed to find out that murderer because someone's looking for whoever ran the previous job, and you're like, don't know who those guys are. We should probably leave town and go find a different guy to get a quest from.
So let me ask you a question here
sure.
too, and I might be getting a little off script from our thing here.
No, go for it.
How do you handle getting your players to understand that this is a pursuit and kind of a chase that they should flee from, rather than something they should turn, dig in their heels, and engage with?
Well, okay, so let's talk about setting the pace for you. Okay. So if you've got... No matter what you physically throw at the PCs, they will attempt to fight it.
Yes.
That is always the truth.
Yes.
Regardless of how heroic level or how, low level it is. You throw something giant at the players, regardless if they've ever played a day of D&D in their life, you could throw a Tarrasque at them, and they would attempt to try and do something. Even if they're level 2. Why? Because they're PCs and that's what they do.
Yeah.
They think that there's an option for win. On the other hand, if you set a situation that they can't fight, you give them something... that is part of the environment, that the losses has already occurred. They don't know what they're fighting. All they know is that A, it wiped out half the town guard to get to a guy in an inn, ravaged his room, and literally tore him out of his house through the window to get him out of the town and into the woods. And you find his body in the woods wrecked.
Okay.
So now you're like...
You lace it with a little bit of horror... And you say, this is what you're dealing with.
Right.
And you make them make the decision of, nope.
Yeah, and like, okay, that sounds like a terrible idea. If they go to investigate it, they get more information on it. Okay, every step of information is always laced with another person saying how horrific or horrible or terrifying or large or what it's embedded in, so that it becomes something larger. Listen to your players and listen to their base design of what they consider is great.
Gotcha.
And then add on to that greatness and horror in a terrifying way.
So the trick isn't confronting them with the thing. It's confronting NPCs with the thing and letting the NPCs say, you don't want to screw with this thing. And
Right.
letting them draw that conclusion.
Right. The moment that they're like, hey, can we get a map to go to this area? No one's ever made a map of that area because no one goes there and lives. Who the heck are you? Why would you want to go into that area? And now the town guard is asking them questions like, why do you want to know information about this? Like, now you're a question, you're a suspect. Oh, I just want to go help. You want to go help by going into no. This is wrong. And then you start having the underworld start talking to them, or maybe they get information from the underworld because the underworld doesn't want to talk to them. Now you've got fear. Now if every time they go to talk to somebody, they're not getting information. They have to shake people down. They have to dig deeper until they eventually find out what it is, why this person's being hunted, and now they've let the cat out of the bag. They're the ones who should be hunted. Now everything turns. Everything around them gets darker.
They've raised enough suspicion that the eyes have seen them for who they are. Yeah.
And now maybe people who were talking to them before are no longer talking to them. Doors are closing. Shutters are closing when they walk by. The lord of the town wants to have dinner with them suddenly.
Yeah.
He doesn't give an audience to anyone. You've made that very clear for the last two adventurers. And now he wants to meet with them personally to discuss this clear and present danger in the town and how they'll help him get rid of the danger.
Yep.
And as they approach that, they can see the entire garrison that he has are armored to the teeth, heavily weaponized, that maybe there's a few extra mages in the area and sigils that weren't there before. Maybe this is an ambush.
So you've set up a situation then now where your PCs are kind of off their guard.
Right. They're becoming aware.
They're becoming aware, and but I would say they're kind of on their back foot.
Yeah, I would say the beginning of any of that story arc would always be the players are on their back foot. Either they don't fully comprehend what it is they have, they know they're being hunted or danger is close to them, and they're slowly discovering what that is.
Right. So now mostly your choices, you still have agency
completely
in the situation.
Yep.
But you're kind of setting the scope for where those decisions need to be made and how to react to this antagonistic force now.
Yep.
And even if the reason for the pursuit is still a mystery to them, they still have to discover all that well under this duress. Well, doors are closing to them, and things are bad guys are moving in on them and stuff like that. So
yeah, or at least positioning. So a good example that I saw that I liked was the concept that the players step into it knowing some of the stakes of how you're playing your game. You maybe your opening session is a combat session, but it's not with the main part of the plot. It's getting them to wherever that is. Maybe there's goblins that have been attacking this town, and they end up going into the town, and while there, they meet up with this guy who has information, because he's been hunkered down there. He was on his way somewhere else, but he's got this, he's got notes about a dungeon that he's got to go into. He's now injured, so he can't go in there, right? So he sends you. You go into the dungeon, you take care of the minor thing that he needed to take care of. It doesn't seem like it's a big deal. Yeah, it probably would have been a bigger deal if you hadn't had the information that he had. But you get out of there and you get back to him. And he's not there. He's been abducted. And when the abduction is found, by guards or whoever, he's not alive. And he's been basically stripped and everything taken from him and scattered. His room's been wrecked and things like that. Now the players have their choices. They could just take off. They could be like, I don't want to be anywhere near this guy. This is a terrible idea. We should go find a new person. Or they could dig into it. Either way that they go, that's their agency. That's the part you're talking about, is gives them that option. Whatever is next is always where they end up.
Yeah.
And that's the key. That's where they discover the truth of what's going on. That's when you step into that bridge and get them a bit more of why they're being thing and what it is. And this is the hardest part, I think, is figuring out what it is that's doing it, what's causing all this to happen, and making it as blunt as humanly possible.
Yeah.
Keeping it very clear. Like, a good example of that is when Frodo shows up in Rivendell, and they're sitting at the council. He's just listening in as they're basically talking about this ring of superpower that has to be destroyed. Why? Well, we could use it as a weapon. We could use... No. This needs to be destroyed. Like, clear without question, has to be destroyed. Why? Because the moment that this guy gets it, he's going to become corporeal, and we're done. Yeah. We're back to zero again. And it is him. We could kill him 1,000,000 times. That ring, as long as it's around, he's around.
Yeah.
That's it. So it's a very blunt way of doing it. We have pirates coming after us. Why? Because they're after the coin. Why is the coin so important to them? Well, let me tell you about this, story.
Right.
Willow's another one. Even though they're not the one, they're being chased for a child who's a prophecy. That everyone agrees with, even especially the big bad evil person. They're making it happen. They're like, oh, no, this child has to die. Why? Because if it doesn't die, I don't become a god of this land. Oh, okay. So it's those kind of moments that you have to define very clearly to the players what it is that this MacGuffin is forcing, and that there's literally a very limited way of handling it. They may come up with a more creative idea for handling than you. Then be prepared to change the ending a little bit.
Yeah.
There's
absolutely.
nothing wrong with that.
Now, once your antagonists, once your protagonists find, basically what the plot is going on and stuff like that, does your plot change from a reactive story to a proactive story? Does at that point, do they start getting to make decisions about how to react to the antagonist? Or can you still continue the chase?
Well, it depends on the square that you're dealing with. So, for instance, if you've determined that your MacGuffin is a object to finish something, it can still be a chase, because it's a race then to the end.
Okay.
On the other hand, if the MacGuffin is something that needs to, a destruction is used for a final piece, whatever. If it is the keystone, on the other hand, meaning removing that piece in some way destroys everything, do they get rid of it? Do they lose it? Do they whatever? So, and that's where your bridge can change. That's where the middle of the story can alter a little bit, and you can make some decisions. Like, the players at that point kind of have that wiggle room to be able to say, okay, do we just go get rid of it? Right? And you can be like, okay, you want to get rid of it? All right, well, let's see who you can get rid of it. And depending on how successful they are, maybe they get rid of it to the wrong person. Maybe they put their trust in the wrong group, and then now it's taken. Now it's another race. Now it's them racing in a proactive way. On the other hand, maybe in the process of doing that, they get involved in another group. So now they're again having to eventually build up to facing the big bad evil guy in some way. But it all comes down to what does your MacGuffin do? What is its purpose, and how is it? Is it something to be removed? Is it something to be used? Is it something to be kept away? And all of those have different things. If you just want to keep it away from them, that becomes kind of a problem, because the bad guy's never going to stop. There's always going to be someone going after it.
Well, at that point too, you may, if you have the flexibility to do so in your story, create a circumstance during which past a period of time, your MacGuffin becomes useless to your antagonist. Like, he has to, like the baby sort of thing. Like, yeah, sure, he might just keep pursuing that baby, but if he doesn't sacrifice that baby under the new moon, then, by the spring equinox or something like that, then he doesn't get to ascend to whatever, evil godhood, or, just making stuff up here.
But again, that's the same thing, is that it's a pinnacle point that has to be removed at just the right time. And at that point, his plan falls apart versus the world falling apart.
Right.
Kind of thing.
Right.
So it all comes down to the timing and feel to create that final conflict. And where your players want to handle that. Like, are they being surrounded? Are they going to take it to the sea? Are they going to, your final conflict doesn't have to be something pre-mapped in your head, and shouldn't be, in all honesty. Your players are going to help you make that final conflict. The final countdown, if you will.
And it's really interesting what you can actually get. I think chase scenes like this are or pursuit plots, I should probably call them. Chase scenes are on the micro scale. Pursuit plots are really like reactive plots are very on the macro scale. I think they're a really great time to see what inventive stuff your players come up with, because when you put them under the pressure of, like, you know, your enemies are bound everywhere, and you've got this deadline, and you've got this hot item that, you know, everybody's looking for weal or for woe, they say necessity is the mother of invention. And you put your PCs under a little bit of pressure, you're going to be really surprised with some of the creative stuff they come up with.
Right.
Some of the NPCs that now they suddenly trust and will call in, like, you're like, that guy was a shopkeeper from 8 games ago, but they had a minor rapport with him, and now they're going to try to, you know, see if he knows someone they can pawn this thing off on or something. Like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
I guess he's coming back then, you know?
Well, and what's interesting is that although your MacGuffin can sometimes be a physical object or a thing that they're carrying or something like that, there's nothing to say that it can't be information. And information that doesn't fit anywhere else, but they know as fact. So, for instance, maybe they know the king is going to be killed. Without a doubt, there's going to be an assassination attempt on the king at his, you know, winter cottage, you know, in this beautiful area, right? They know that for a fact. They know what day it's going to be on, and it is literally 1,000 miles away, right? They've got to get there. You know, but the thing is that any message spell they use, any kind of communication method is either A, too slow, or B, they have no rapport whatsoever, right? And so now they're racing to get there while elements are noticing that they're on their way and that they're communicating with all these people to try and stop this thing. So now you've got all of these side elements trying to stop them from getting to the final conflict. So that's a different way of looking at the same type of hunted plot. You know, where it's like, how do you stop that, you know, that arrow from being cast? You know, and can you get there in time, or can you communicate with the right people in time and get the rapport just right so that at the end you can be there to stop it?
Yeah.
You know, and how do you handle that? Now it's crafty. Now it's creative. Now you have no idea, but you could have any number of people as a storyteller stopping them that maybe you never even thought, like, would come up with. Maybe there's a lot of people who want that king done. Maybe that king needs to die.
Yeah.
But not right now. Because his death means the following things.
Yes.
So now the players are making a decision like, okay, well, we have to stop this. I don't want, you know, maybe he does, but like his son is literally going to take us to war instantaneously because this is going to be seen as an act of war. If we all go to war, we're going to lose. Like his son is silly. So now it's a matter of, okay, we have all these things going on. Secondly, the guy who's going to be in charge is not his son. It's going to be that guy who's a jerk and who's just going to puppet the son and do whatever he wants because he's really the great nephew of the other country that they're going to go to war with.
Right.
So they're just going to merge the countries, and now we're even more screwed, you know? It's always interesting to see how much you can tie together just letting the players talk and hear where things come out during these kinds of hunted plots. Because hunted comes in a lot of forms.
Yeah, it really does. It does.
So...
All right, so where do chase scenes like this then, or again, I keep calling them chase scenes. Where do hunted plots like this start to fall apart? I can think of a couple pitfalls to avoid.
I'm thinking we should hold the railroading to the end because that's an easy one to fall into.
Yeah. So. For me, and I think I mentioned this earlier, is that prolonged chases here can be really exhausting to both the players and the characters alike. There was the obligatory Critical Role mention of the podcast here. They actually recently had a hunted plot like that where they were kind of side by side with the big bad evil guy, who was just, you know, keeping an eye on them,
right?
Because they had an artifact that he wanted, and he thought maybe they could work together. But there was a tension. Like they both, nobody was under the impression that they were not enemies, you know. But he was just trying to be nice about getting this thing from them, hoping they would hand it over peacefully. And then apparently he got sick of that. and stole their artifact in the middle of the night.
Ooh.
Stole literally their entire bag of holding and absconded with it. Sorry if this is huge spoilers for you guys, but this is like 10 episodes ago, so you should be caught up.
You're fine.
And for like the next two, and really this has gone on for a little while, because then they had to go and pursue them and get the thing back. But once they did, like, they had to flee from combat with the MacGuffin while being chased because they were not going to give it up. And these are powerful dudes who are trying to hunt them down, and they are strung out and exhausted. Like, they didn't get a full rest. They found out at 3 a.m. basically that they'd been robbed. And so, pitch dark battle in the middle of the night to get this thing. Nobody has any spell slots. They spent what little they had left polymorphing themselves into like giant eagles so that they could fly off, being hunted down. And it was a tense couple of episodes. And then they got back on their feet. Some things happened. They had their relaxation, their safe harbor, and now they stole something from another group of people, ironically enough, to hide them from the first group of people, and now they're being chased by a completely different group. And we're right back on the hunt.
Nothing wrong with that.
It's back to being so super tense, but you can feel it, like, just watching it is exhausting. You know, because you're into it, you're experiencing this tension, you're experiencing the constant anxiety of, we can't stop. We don't have any resources. We don't have any friends. Where do we go? We're burning bridges every time we talk to somebody, you know? So like what I think the solution to something like that is, though, is you have to have safe harbors.
Always.
It can't be a constant go. And this is something like you see too, like if you've played any survival horror games, like Resident Evil did this a lot, Silent Hill I know did this, and even Left 4 Dead. Left 4 Dead did this, where you would get to safe rooms, and you could just, there was a save point there, usually there's some ammunition and stuff like that there for whatever, but what it allows you to do as a narrative beat is have that moment where, after all this tension, you as the player can sit back and just relax, rearm, rest, save your progress, and get back to it when you feel like you can again. And I think that's super important for not only your characters and your narrative flow, but honestly your players. It can get to the point where you're dreading going to that next game session. You know?
Because it's just too much. I think in counter to that a little bit is when your players lose sight of why they're doing what they're doing. Like, is this MacGuffin really that important? Why don't we just ditch it? And unless a lot of times your first reaction is to have someone be like, oh, no, this is super powerful. It may, and try and instill it to them directly. If they want to get rid of it, let them get rid of it. Let them feel the weight of the loss and what it means. Does it impact them? Does it impact people around them? Does it change the state of the game suddenly? So now, like, okay, so they got rid of whatever, the locket, right, that they were hunting after. So now someone else has that locket. Okay, so what happens now that that person that they gave it to no longer has it? Because it just got torn from them easily because no one was there to defend it. Some vagabond picked it out of the trash can that they pitched it in. That guy pawned it for a quick 2 gold so he could get a meal for the night. And then that pawn guy was knocked over by the cultists that night. And now the cultists have the locket. Right. And what does that mean? What does that change? What's the events that follow after that? And that's where things can get risky for your players, and that's where you can start pulling backgrounds. That's where you can start pulling from other information to tie them back to the events of what that is. Doesn't have to start that way. Always keep that in your back pocket of what it could mean to them. Oh yeah, absolutely. They will start writing their own tales for that. I think that the cleaner it is, the more they know in a simple term. If you can write it in a sentence, one sentence, what it means and what the power of that item MacGuffin is, the easier it's going to be for you to set anything in motion later. Keep it simple. Don't go crazy with it, because the crazier you get with it, the easier it is for them to be like, well, I'm just going to throw it through a portal, into another, into the elemental plane of fire. Great.
Have fun finding it in the astral sea.
Yeah. On the other hand, if it's bound to the earth and it goes to hit the portal and literally just passes through the portal as if the portal wasn't there and just falls in the dirt on the other side of it, and you're like, oh no. It's an object that can't go through the planes. Well, I'll take it with me through the planes. You go to walk through the planar door. Your hand doesn't pass through it. Because the ring is literally trying to tear its way through the portal to the other side with your hand attached.
Yep.
Take 15 points of damage, your finger just broke.
Right.
Those kind of things, you're like, okay, that's significant.
See, I'm thinking, too, is, like, if they want to get rid of it, let them. But then start showing them the awful things that happened because of it. Like, okay, cool. What do you guys want to do? You guys go downstairs. You're having your morning meal. There's a couple patrons talking about a grisly murder that happened last night. Oh, really? Who got murdered? I don't know. Some merchant. Yeah. They said nothing was stolen from him except for a locket. And they're like, oh, gosh darn it.
Yep. Yeah.
And just start there. Just put a murder right on their hands.
Yep, exactly.
And
then have the town guard come ask them, like, did you see anybody go in there? Was there someone suspicious?
Yeah, do you know anything about a locket? Like, no, we don't know anything. Okay, well, let us know if you do, and just walk off.
Yep.
Oh God, what are we gonna do?
Because they're gonna eventually figure out that we were there. It's not like we hid our way into that place.
And just let's just see if you can get the guild to chew them apart and put them back on the quest. That's always fun.
Yeah. But I do think that railroading is a serious thing that can easily happen. Because you'll have a vision about where you want them to fight and how you want those ambushes to go and where you want things to end, and you're writing a novel that your players are involved in.
Yep.
And it's really easy. It's really easy. And my personal opinion is write that opening scene beautifully. Make it an in media res and make it gorgeous. And then walk away.
Yep.
Wait to see what's next.
I think the important thing to do is react to the players step by step. And more so than ever, when you're writing your antagonist, you really want to write your antagonist's thesis statement.
Yes.
What does in a sentence your antagonist want? And every time you start thinking, okay, well, what's the next step in my plot? You should pull that up, read it, and think, okay, with the events that just transpired, with what the PCs have just done, how is my antagonist going to accomplish his goal?
Yep.
And that's your move.
Yep.
And
in some of my favorite stuff is, if this is just a piece in your mind, if this is a longer campaign, and this first adventure is a piece in that campaign that you wanted to throw together, make your big bad evil guy one of the henchmen who is getting his hands to do one part of a larger cog turn. This is the pry bar that releases the door kind of effect. And if he doesn't get that pry bar into position, someone above him will take care of it. So now he's going to get taken care of with it, kind of a situation, and that's when things get ugly, and he knows things are going to get ugly for him, and he's going to lose his position, so he's going to keep throwing resources until he can't throw them anymore.
Out of desperation, out of self-preservation.
And that drives a villain more than anything else. It's not that he's got, he's been put in a position to get one simple thing done, and you're screwing that up.
Yep.
And he's going to lose everything.
It's always interesting to see your big bad evil guy too, who you think is the mastermind of the plot, turn around and say, "Here, master, I got one of the 4 pieces you needed," and then you're like, "Where are the other 3? What do you mean 1 of 4?" And this story has been unfolding in 4 separate parts of the planet. You're just literally some dudes who stepped in front of one of his henchmen. So, all right. You think of any other pitfalls and advice to avoid them that you can think of here?
No, but I do want to get into the questions that are directly related to this.
Yeah, all right.
Hulavu had a good one, and I think it fits within the pitfalls, and that is, how do you keep players in a chase without railroading them? For example, in a campaign I'm a player, in a water deity has threatened to take our ship. However, the party quickly left the water. It would seem railroading if the DM created an encounter with said deity in the middle of the forest.
No, that's right.
I agree.
And but I think the thing here is that, okay, so the water deity obviously has its own domain. But if it can't continue the pursuit, you don't have to, you don't have to force it. What you have done, though, is you have effectively cordoned off an entire realm of travel for them. They cannot set foot on a sea, on a river, on a lake, or whatever without knowingly crossing that deity. And if they forget and they get back on a ship, remind them.
Yeah. Maybe that ship that they have is now gone. It has sank.
It's the second obligatory Critical Role reference. They have almost exactly the same thing going on right now with one of their characters who crossed an ancient Leviathan.
Ooh.
And who is, who, just as a, bless Travis Willingham's heart, he's just a fluffy golden retriever who's just happy to be there. And, Travis just gets so wrapped up in the joy of playing D&D in the moment that he forgets that plots have consequences sometimes, and will just frequently get back on ships and act really surprised when this ancient Leviathan sends his minions to come and kill him. So
poor guy.
Yeah. So yeah, I think that's really where you do it. Is you're correct. You can't do it without railroading. So don't.
Walk away from it.
And if they
leave it.
But the moment they step back on the water, that plot is right back in action.
Exactly. Overwatch then threw in. We've seen characters chased and hunted in all sorts of books, movies, and shows. Is there anything like that stands out in some other form of media that you'd love to translate to the tabletop? I honestly really liked the curse effect of the that Pirates of the Caribbean had. Because it wasn't about Will Turner. It wasn't about her. It wasn't even about anyone else. It was about the fact that coin needed to come back. They were just wanting to go to rest, to be done with it. And they had been doing it for so long, hunting those coins one at a time for so long, that they're basically maddened by it, by the whole process of it.
Yeah.
I liked that kind of storytelling where you've got someone who has literally got minions who are all on the same boat, if you will, on what they have to do. And the players are just involved because of one minor thing. And because the bad guys never address what the issue is until they're done. They're like, we need you. Like, we need you and it. That's it. Once that's done, we're good. Once we've all spilled our blood, we're done. And you don't find that out until it's almost too late.
Yeah.
But that's that moment of now there is more to the story. There aren't necessarily, the bad guys aren't as bad as you think they are, but they have done horrific things, and other people are hunting for that same reason.
Yeah.
So I like that story. I want to tell something similar without it being the same thing, and I think it would be fun to do.
Oh yeah, no, definitely. I think mine, my big one is The Mummy with Brendan Fraser.
Yeah.
And I really liked the sort of, I don't know, game of keep away they were trying to play with the mummy as he, visited plagues upon them and hunted down the members of the excavation team and such like that, one after another, and watching them constantly having to react to this ancient, unkillable evil, as things just slowly got worse and slowly got worse and slowly got worse until they finally figured out what they needed to do about them. I really liked the sort of procedural way in which it unfolded, because there was multiple MacGuffins, you know?
Yeah.
There was a series of MacGuffins that he needed. And so it was like, let's defend MacGuffin A. Oh, well, that went poorly. Let's defend MacGuffin B now. Okay, well, he got MacGuffin B, but he won't get MacGuffin C.
Yeah.
And until you're down to your last thing, and he's like, "Oh crap, he's got all of them now."
Mm-hmm.
Now we don't. It's not even defend the MacGuffin. Now it's just a race to stop him from doing the thing with the MacGuffins. You know,
right.
So yeah, no, that's one that I really particularly like.
Yeah. You've got the Holy Grail concept where they don't know what they have because nobody really knows what they have, but they've unlocked enough of the secrets that you're like, oh no, this is going to be bad.
Yeah.
And then at the last second you realize it's not, the players now know exactly what it's going to do, and it's not anything that anyone wants. So like, how do we stop it or take our level of control of that?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
There was a story that I was reading about where a guy basically had set it up that locked inside of a pendant that had 4 micro keys, like jewels, that were keys for it, was a wish. A single wish. And everyone had guessed what it was. And, it, had guesses like something in this locket would unlock unlimited power. And then there was another story that it could bring someone back to life. And so you have all of these people who want this locket. And there's gems that are required to unlock it. And of course, 3 gems are already in the locket. Someone's already gotten 3 of them, and there's 3 more to go. So you have to find some. Some people already have them. And so this group is like, their first thought is like, oh, well, we can keep this locket and get the gems for it, or we could sell it to somebody for a lot of money. But then do they get unlimited power? Could they just kill us for it? And so literally the bad people who are wanting this are not necessarily bad, but they all want it for very different reasons. And then come to find out at the very end, like, now you've got all the players together, the locket's there, the gems are there, they're getting ready to put together, deals are being formed between groups about like, well, once I have unlimited power, I can bring back your daughter.
Yeah, right,
kind of a thing. And it's like, he's not going to keep that promise. You know that for a fact. And so now you've got all of these layers of gray at the last scene.
Right.
Yeah, so I thought it was really well done.
Knox actually drops into the live chat here. Can you be hunted by a thing or event you have to finish, like Jumanji, the board game?
Oh, I totally think that's a thing. I think survival horror at that point, but yes.
That's you're verging on survival horror at that point, yeah. But yeah, no, I think especially if you've got like a sort of deadline. I don't think it's much different than what I just mentioned with the Mummy, where you've got a series of events that are getting progressively worse, and you understand that at a certain point, those events unfolding are going to, because they're getting worse, they're eventually going to overcome you.
Yes.
And at that point, I mean, if you don't win, if you don't stop it, you're just going to drown essentially in whatever these unfolding events are. And I also think that's a great storytelling technique. We talked a little bit earlier about showing the PCs that the antagonist is something that should not be confronted head on. Watching them progressively overcome obstacle after obstacle after obstacle right in front of the PCs, whether they harm the PCs in the process or not.
Right.
Of just okay, you guys set up some defenses. That's cute. I just break right through them and I steal the thing from you. Bye.
Yeah.
I got the thing. I don't need to harm you. I'm done.
Right.
I'm going for thing number 2.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. He didn't even confront us. He just ignored us? Oh, God, he ignored us. Oh, God, we're below his notice.
Yep.
Oh, no.
Yeah. He didn't even monologue. He just left.
Yeah. He just tipped his cap at us and walked out the front door. Yeah. No, I think that's good. All right. So, do we want to go to Knox's or do we want to go to
I want to go to
Heatsings?
Knox's.
All right.
I want to go to Knox's.
All right. So I got some opinions on.
You
Knox's.
definitely have some. We have some time. Not a lot, but we have some time.
No, we got some time. So Knox in the Box asks, what about a story where the players are trying to be caught by someone who, unbeknownst to them, wants to help them reach their full potential? What are some ways to present surrender as a quote-unquote leap of faith choice that might benefit them instead of quote-unquote submitting to someone trying to force their will upon them? Can you do this and still have tension of being prey? So, I love this question.
It's a good question.
It's a really good question.
It's a great setup.
So, essentially, the question is, can you have the person pursuing them possibly be a good guy? And I think yes.
I think the straight up answer is yes.
Straight up answer is yes. But I think in making this narrative work, you really have to ride that gray area between the light outcome, which is being helpful, And, like you said, helping them reach their full potential or whatever. And the dark outcome, which is submitting and them being manipulative and them subverting your will and them turning you into what they want you to be. And now you're just a tool to be used by some dark manipulator.
Correct. There's a difference between manipulation and guidance.
Oh, yeah, no, absolutely.
And it can sometimes be a very thin line.
And you, like I said, you have to ride that line.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to make sure that you're constantly stay on it. Mm-hmm. And monitor your players, because if they ever start feeling like this NPC is too trustworthy, have them do something shady. If they ever start thinking that he's just a villain, have him do something altruistic and helpful.
Yeah.
Keep them guessing, because that is where your tension lies, in not knowing whether or not they can take the chance to embrace them.
Mm-hmm.
And if you embrace them, it might mean giving up control.
Yeah.
It might mean you get screwed big time. But if you confront them, you might be throwing away power, and you might actually be making an enemy out of a potentially powerful ally.
Yep.
So the tension comes in not knowing, and the longer you want that tension to go on, the longer you have to manipulate your group.
Right. And keep in mind that when we're talking about manipulation versus guidance, manipulation is for personal gain. So if I'm the bad guy and I'm affecting people for my own personal gain, I am truly manipulating them. Mm-hmm. On the other hand, if I'm using them as a tool to achieve a goal beyond myself, that is also inclusive of a gain for others as well as them, is it manipulation?
Yeah.
It is, but it is that...
It might be altruistic, but you're still manipulating.
Correct. Yeah. And that's the key, is that, like, a good thing that hit in my head is that when you've got someone who is trying to get them to break into someplace, like, I need this back. So you're having them break in to get this because a child is missing. And there's evidence there to prove that this person took it. Right, and so I need you to bring me the evidence, and you'll find it on this USB drive, right?
Sure.
Because he doesn't keep it in his system because it could be hacked. So the group goes in, gets the evidence, brings it back. Great, now you have it. Thank you. 2 days later, that guy also somehow has a bunch of new money, and the other guy is poor. And he's like, wait a second, what else was on that drive? I mean, while you were in there, I wasn't just going to have you do one thing.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, the child is much safer now. It was actually his wife's first child, who she had given up for adoption. He was going to get it back and turn him into the next one of his heirs. Now, she was unaware of this. She's now aware of it. Oh, all right. And then, 3 days later, he's complaining, he's having you go after another heist. You're like, didn't you just get all of his money? Oh, no. That went to his heiress. She's now living a very quiet life on her own with the child. You just gave it to her? Well, I mean, there's always a handling fee. Now, on to your next mission. And just so this gray area of like...
Who are we working for? Is this guy a master thief or an altruist or a Robin Hood? Or
what's his end goal? And is all these little manipulations of taking people down and shifting money and getting items leading to something greater? That's good or bad?
I actually have this exact plot going on. Well, not this exact plot, but a gray manipulator going on right now in my own game with your character.
You do.
For those of you familiar with the Elder Scrolls setting, I have given the Beacon of Meridia to Rob's character, and just asked him to bring it to Meridia's shrine. She'll have some better words for him.
Yep, my character's completely oblivious about what this could possibly mean, but has a pretty good idea who Meridia is, and that's about it.
On one hand, she is a powerful being that likes things like life and hates the undead and just wants nothing more than to viciously smite things like necromancers and the undead and whatnot. On the other hand, she is a Daedric prince, which means that she's technically an outsider that does not play by our rules and is essentially a god who may possibly be just manipulating him and using him to do her bidding, to use him up and throw him away so she can find a new champion after him. And
Yep.
Can continue the cycle.
Another tissue.
We don't know. We don't know, but we're gonna find out.
That's it. Yeah, we will. Definitely will.
And so yeah, writing that mystery in the middle of like, she's technically good, but she's really powerful and has her own things going on, and I'm nobody to her. So do I want to deal with that? You know.
Truth.
That's how you do that.
So we got some fun questions. It looks to kind of wrap things up.
Yeah, Heatsink tossed some questions in for once.
A rarity, here. But I'll accept.
All right. So the first question is, what was the most you've panicked when naming an NPC on the spot?
I had forgotten to name a major NPC because I didn't think anybody was going to ask their name.
Oh, no.
Yeah, it wasn't this game, but it was a previous 7th Sea game.
Okay.
And I was just caught completely off guard, and I had to basically center myself very quickly and be like, okay, I need a name that fits, that goes with this. Mm-hmm. And I had no names. I didn't have my name sheet with me. I had nothing available. I was like, crap. I was just totally caught off. And I won't let that happen again. I definitely won't have that happen again. I can't even remember the name of the NPC, but I remember the feeling and going, oh crap, why did they ask?
Yeah.
Why did they ask for this name? So, yeah.
It's been such a long-term practice of mine to have a bank of names just sitting there that I can peel one off of. That I don't actually remember the last time I panicked on an NPC name on the spot. Now what I will say is that I have this horrible thing that I do where I'll hear an interesting name, whether it's for a place or whether it's for a person or something like that, and I will file it away as like, oh, that is a good name. I should use that sometime. But I'll forget the context in which I heard it. Mm-hmm. And I can think of 3 memorable times. You know of one of them. I know
one of them. Laughing right now about it.
Is because he's one of our Patreons.
He is.
A friend of the show, Vedran,
yes.
Became a major NPC in my game because I saw his online handle and said, oh, Vedran, that's a cool name. Filed it away, forgot where I heard it, and then when I was naming these NPCs, I was like, Vedran Telvanni sounds like a great dark elf name, yeah. And then I saw his screen name pop up again after I'd already introduced the character in the campaign, and I was like, oh, well, that's already in play. Okay, hope nobody notices, and everybody noticed, of course. There's a mall near us named Devonshire Mall. And I named a village Devonshire one time, and every PC at the table went, oh, like Devonshire Mall? And I went, that's where I heard it!
Yes.
Thank you, and also, to heck with you.
Yep. I used to grab street names. Like, some of the older street names were great, especially when I was traveling. I could easily grab street names. And I had totally forgotten that Westwood was also a game company that was exceptionally popular for a while. Mm-hmm. And it was the name of the street. And I did use that as a character once, and people did recognize it. They were like, Westwood is in like the game studio? And I'm like, oh, I guess, yeah, that's how it'd be spelled. Sure. It's like, well, that isn't nearly as crafty as I wanted it to be.
My most egregious one, though, because I'm not a sports fan, mm-hmm. And I do not watch football at all. Don't follow any sports whatsoever. Mm-hmm. I was the short stint that I ran Adventure for you guys.
Yeah.
My villain, the short term, the villain for that one episode was Untouchable Tony Romo, mm-hmm. which I later found out was like a quarterback or something like that for a major team.
Funny enough, most of our group didn't care or notice.
I was just like, what's an Italian sounding name? Tony Romo. Yeah, sure. That sounds appropriately pulpy Italian, you know.
It works fine.
Sure. I need a 1920s mobster. Okay.
No, that probably works.
And they were like, oh, to Untouchable Tony Romo. What is he, a quarterback? Is he going to stiff arm me as he runs by? And I'm like, oh, gosh darn it, guys. Come on. Cut me some slack. I don't watch football.
So the second question, what go-to trope or narrative tool do either of you use when caught off guard or when players do something way left field on you?
Oh, God. I don't know. This is like, you're asking for some deep introspection here.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of yours.
Narrative tool when we get caught off guard. I think I typically tend to I get reactionary and defensive.
You do,
which is a bad quality of me.
I think it's a common quality for most.
I think it's a common quality, but it's not a good quality. And it's something I try to, you always want to roll with it, roll with the punches. You want to yes and stuff like that. But sometimes when your players throw you a real curveball, especially when that curveball is like an obscure rule that you didn't realize was a thing. Mm-hmm. Not necessarily like the rules lawyering, but like specifically remembering like when Sean threw heat metal on my big bad evil guy.
Yeah.
And I was like, what does that do? I have to look that up. That one spell that I've never seen before.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like no saving throw. And if they're using if you're wearing heavy armor, they're just screwed for like the next minute.
Mm-hmm.
And can't do anything, and they're disadvantaged to everything, and they're just taking all sorts of things unless they want to spend a minute stripping off their armor.
Yep.
Which in the middle of combat, obviously, you're not going to. And like that, that sort of thing, like I have to like swallow that and just be like, I feel like I just got outplayed.
No, that's common. Combat outplay is common.
But it's unfortunately common and stuff like that. So I tend to, for better or for worse, get defensive about it, and I think that reads into my NPCs, who then become very confrontational when the players do something out of left field. My NPCs will tend to be like, wait, what do you mean? What are you doing? I don't think that's a good way of handling things. I will outright say that, but it's what I tend to do.
I agree. It is a common resource for us, is that when we lose momentum in a direction that we believe we were heading, we tend to get defensive. And I think I think that goes back to childhood. I think that goes back to playing make-believe and having an image in your mind of what make-believe means and what the rules are in your own head, and then that changes in front of you very quickly and shatters your vision of that reality. Suddenly you're going to get very defensive. That's just a natural response.
Yeah.
I think the best thing that happened to me was 7th Sea for that. Was that I learned that I needed to always, during combat specifically, step back from the table and just let things happen. Watch the players, listen to what they're doing, and almost ignore the actions and moments that my NPCs are in. Pull those when they're necessary, but otherwise just let it roll.
Yeah.
And because if you get too embedded in how the combat should flow, you're going to get disappointed.
Yeah, and that's that. I feel like I'm getting better at it.
It's a hard thing to learn,
but it is, and I think one of the major shortcomings I have as a person is just that it's very triggering for me to feel out of control of my situation. And so on a microcosm, when I'm playing, if I feel like I should be in control of that combat and suddenly I'm not anymore, then my own psychological things start kicking in, going, that one got away from you, and I'm like, no. So, yeah.
You have to remain calm. You have to be assertive. But you have to remember that the scene is playing out in front of you. And it's part of a group storytelling, even the combat.
Yep.
And just learn to roll with it.
All right, what are we doing next episode?
So our next episode is about narrative flow, actually, and how to get from plot into how pacing should go, either in a 1-to-1 or a 1-2-2 style. And I'll kind of explain what that means.
Yeah, we'll have to define 1-2-1 and 1-2-2 when we get there. But in the meantime, you can find us on Twitter at @ST_conclave, on Instagram at @ST_conclave. Listen to us every Wednesday night. We record live on 7 p.m. Eastern Time on mixlr.com/storyteller-conclave, and join us up on our Discord. You can find that link up on our Twitter and on our website, storytellerconclave.com.
We'd like to thank our Patreon members, especially our named members, Knock in the Box, Sam, The Arcane Asylum, Sparkle Motion, Veteran, and Hulavu. You guys make this so much easier for us every single week, and we truly appreciate it. Our pre-show music is Arcane Anthems. You can find that at patreon.com/arcaneanthems. Our intro music, Beyond the Warriors by Geefrog. You can find that at geefrogmusic.weebly.com or on Google Music. You can find our outro music, Only Our Footprints in the Sand by Midair Machine, at soundcloud.com/midairmachine/tracks.
And as always, a big shout out to our families, Vicky and Sean. Thank you so much for loving us and supporting us. All of our friends who've sat with us at our tables over the years to give us these great stories to share with you. And you, every single one of our listeners. We love you so much. Stay safe. Good night.
Good night.